Don Cherry. You gotta love him. He's hockey. He has a freedom of speech. Some of the things he shouldn't have said, some of the things he goes overboard about, but that's Don Cherry.
To go on the rant the way in which he did and targeting the people that he targeted, it's not the hockey way.
Don Cherry launched a national argument that is not dying down. In a moment, we'll put this question up for debate. Has Canada outgrown Don Cherry, his vision of hockey and of the country? And what are we to make of what he had to say today? But first, let's go rinkside in Cherry City of Mississauga, Ontario, where Katie Nicholson heard from a young, diverse team.
These Pee Wee players should be focused on tonight's game, but something else is on their mind.
Well, honestly, I've been seeing Don Cherry on Hockey Night in Canada where my dad makes me watch it a lot of times.
They're buzzing about Don Cherry's contentious comments and forced departure from Hockey Night in Canada.
I can see why he's saying it. Just maybe don't say it the way he said it. And refuse to apologize to the people who found that offensive.
Guys, listen to me.
The team president says this is one of Ontario's most diverse hockey leagues. He thinks most players were not offended and that Cherry's real message got garbled.
People who are making Canada home, and they come from all different places and all different races, are people that we should be, treating the same way, and ultimately the message of supporting the troops got lost.
Despite that, Cherry still has fans here.
Don Cherry is a very good man. I thought he stated his opinion, which is fine, but I don't think he should have said it on live TV.
He said what he said, and it was on live TV, so he should have expected consequences. Like in school, they always teach you to think before what you say, so he should have thought.
But not everyone is that forgiving.
All I can really say about it was uncalled for. It was strange.
Divisive language sometimes hurts, but do Cherry's words represent this hockey world?
It's not really representative of Canada at all, or hockey, because hockey's supposed to be an inclusive sport.
And maybe that's the takeaway. One rant doesn't really change anything here, where players from many different backgrounds are united in the love of one game. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Mississauga, Ontario.
So look, this is a story where everybody has an opinion, but in all the outrage and indifference, is it possible to separate the man from the moment or his words from his intentions? And does any of that matter if there were real consequences, real harm from what he said? Now, we've got three very thoughtful people to help us sort through it all. Shireen Ahmed joining us, sports writer, also the co-host of the Burn It All Down podcast. We have Bruce Arthur, sports columnist with the Toronto Star. And to my left, we have Jeff Samet, host of Canada Now on SiriusXM. Hello to all of you. Thanks for being here. I know it's a busy time.
Thank you.
Shireen, maybe I'll start with you. Just generally, kind of how do you see what happened over the last couple of days? How do you look at it?
Well, I mean, if I was going to use one word, it would be gong show. It was really eventful, unsurprising as well. I mean, the series of events that unfolded hurt a lot of people, affected a lot of people, particularly around the time that they happened, and ended up taking over the entire news cycle on Remembrance Day, which is a day we're supposed to inflect and reflect and remember, and that's not what happened.
Right, that is one tragedy of
absolutely
everything that's unfolded.
Yeah.
When you say it hurt a lot of people,
yes.
Can you articulate for me the damage that was done?
Well, I can only speak for myself and my experience. I had two grandfathers that served for the Commonwealth. They served, one for the Royal Indian Army, and the other one was a squadron leader for the Royal Indian Air Force. And then to hear these comments, you really feel like, and this was my interpretation and many Canadians' interpretation of, you people come over here. I'm the daughter of immigrants. I'm the granddaughter of those people that served. One of my grandfathers became a Canadian citizen. So Don Cherry's words were basically interpreted as, and very easily interpreted as, intentional to say, you people come over here and you take our milk and honey. Well, he wasn't responsible for any milk and honey in my family. And quite frankly, dishonoring and erasing the histories that people of immigrant experiences have done, in addition to constantly degrading and erasing the experiences of Indigenous communities and Black communities.
And I mean, a person of that stature on that sort of a program, broadcasting to that many people, that's all part of that package.
It is, and using hockey as a platform, a game that so many people in this country love, that's really part of so many communities around here. And historically, using that as a platform for this kind of rhetoric, no.
But okay, Bruce, let me bring you in here, because I wonder, in your mind, was this an example of Don Cherry crossing a line, or was he left behind in a way? I mean, because let's keep in mind, this is a guy who's been around for a long time. The world has changed under his watch.
Yeah, well, I think the reaction did feel different. Don Cherry went on the Fifth Estate in 1990 and talked to Eric Malling that foreigners were stealing Canadian jobs. He's been complaining about poppies in various forms for 30 years. All of Don Cherry's hits are old hits now, because he's 85 years old. Yeah. He has offended people before, but the bigotry of Don Cherry traditionally was hockey bigotry, right? It was chicken Swedes, it was untrustworthy Russians, it was French Canadians. It wasn't just all Canadians, it was French Canadians. It was a very Anglo-Saxon viewpoint of our game and our Canada. And what happened here, there's a relitigation that's attempting to be done. Like, Don's attempting to do it, other people are attempting to do it, in terms of what he said. What he said, as Shireen said, it wasn't just you people.
Right.
It was, you come here, you take our milk and honey. It was dividing Canadians who have come here from somewhere else and who lived here forever. It's the Anglo-Saxon view of Canada. And Don Cherry, you can say a lot of good things about Don over the years. He's done a lot for a lot of people in terms of charity, in terms of kids, in terms of his time. But he preaches to one Canada, and there's more than one.
Jeff, you actually had a chance to speak with Don Cherry, and we have a clip. It's a short clip. Have a listen to this.
I never said immigrants, did I?
No, you didn't say the word. You didn't say the word immigrants. No.
No, I didn't, and I didn't say anything like that. I said you people, and all of a sudden, like I said, it could have been Irish, could have been Scotch, it could have been Welsh, it could have been anything like that. But they jumped on anything very sensitive. And if I had it to do over again, I probably would have said everybody.
So there's the relitigation that Bruce was just talking about, right? And it's a fair point. He didn't just say, you people. It's not just about those two words. He went further than that. He said, you people, you come here. And he talks about our values. In that moment when you were hearing his defense, his justification, his rationale, what was going through your mind?
Well, what I was thinking was this is the first sign of him showing any kind of remorse for what went down. Again, falling short of an apology, which in the end he did not do when I spoke with him. And I wanted to invite him on the show because I'm a fan and I'm a person that I've known him for a long time. I've seen the best of him. Bruce spoke about some of the good that he's done, and he has done a lot of that. But I wanted to bring him on because I was confused by what was said on Saturday night, and I was hurt for all the people that were hurt, and I wanted him to have a chance to explain himself, to really flush this out, and to have the opportunity to advance what he had said to that point to other people. I wanted to have a good long conversation with him.
Did you buy his explanation, though?
I know where he's coming from, which is not to apologize for him or to accept it, but I know where he's coming from, and I know that he was talking about what he said on Saturday night, and he's saying, I'm not going to apologize for what I said, but I was getting from him that I wish I hadn't said you people. It was a poor choice of words.
Right.
And he wanted another opportunity to go on the air and to talk about it on Hockey Night in Canada, on Coach's Corner. He didn't get that opportunity. He could have had that opportunity if he was going to say the words, I'm sorry. But he didn't want to do that.
And so, so here's the million-dollar question now. If you take all of it together, I mean, what he said in that moment, but also his rationale for why, he misspoke, his remorse, as you put it, and whether that goes far enough is a whole other question.
Oh, totally.
But if you take all of that as a package, does it all cross so clearly into this realm of hateful, harmful things that the only way forward for Rogers was to remove him from the equation?
Well, they obviously felt that way. Yeah. They felt that it was to a point where they saw the reaction. Yeah. He said what he said, and if it was merely just a poor choice of words, well, he has to own that. And he did when he spoke to me, again, short of an apology.
Right.
But he did that, and he looked at it and said, hey, I said what I said. If it was a misconstruction of words within a sentence, whatever it was, if that's what it is, that got me in trouble and that got me fired. And he says, hey, this is who I am. This is me. This is part of what I do. And if that's going to be the end, well, that's the end.
But that's owning it. That's not being accountable for his actions.
True.
And that's my problem with it. I mean, this wasn't a culmination of just Saturday. This is decades and decades of this man being sexist, misogynic, xenophobic, finally, in front of the national, in front of a national audience. Like, what was it going to take? How far did he have to go? And how many people did he really have to insult for them to pull the plug on him?
There were players, like, this is a smaller version of this, but there have been players in the NHL, Swedish players particularly, who have told people that when Don Cherry was calling Swedes chicken Swedes, they didn't like sending their kids to school.
Yeah.
Right? So they said, like, guys would say over the years, you think he's funny? He's not funny. No. He's not funny to us. And Don has always been a conservative in a very conservative sport. He has worried for 30 years and predicted for 30 years that politics would be his downfall. He's known that this was coming. From a Rogers perspective, this was a company that has lost money on the very big hockey deal that they signed with the NHL, that cut an enormous amount of salary this past summer, and that probably didn't mind cutting Don Cherry's salary from a purely bottom line perspective. But from their point of view, Don is 85 years old. Television is a difficult medium for the best of us. It requires enormous mental acuity. You need to be fast. You need to choose your words carefully. Don's political beliefs, expressed with very few reservations over the last 40 years, after he said this on Saturday night, how could you put him on television again? If he wasn't going to go out and say, not only was I wrong, this is why I was wrong, this is who I hurt, and I understand that. I'm not sure Don understands who he hurt and why.
The irony is Ron MacLean went on to talk about, he quoted an elder in his apology and said, part of the beginning process is acknowledgement. And we're even gotten to the reconciliation part. He's not even ready to apologize for actually hurting Canadians.
Last question for you, Jeff. Do you feel like there is a sense that he may get to that point? Because even over the last few days, it does seem like his position has evolved, changed.
Yeah.
You know, if it's Don Cherry, if it's one of us here, if it's any Canadian that's watching right now, we have to have open ears and open eyes to how people feel about what is said publicly, on a subway, on the street. We have to be sensitive to how each other feels and what is said. And I would like to think that Don is one of those people that is going to reflect and continue to think back on what has happened.
And stop talking.
I feel like he's done that since the weekend. He's spoken to me. I'm sure he's spoken to others as well since then, and even before that. And I've seen him say more and more and more. Whether or not it gets to an apology, I don't know. But then again, if it does get to an apology, would many people believe it's just because he ended up getting fired? I don't know. But I wanted to give him a platform to be heard. I wanted people to more so be able to walk away having heard more of him, so that Canadians could hear more of what he had to say and formulate their own opinion.
We got to wrap it there, but guys, this has been helpful and insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.